So once again, 2 extraordinary days. The forum is an unreplaceable platform to develop friendship and cooperation and promote development of activities between a world, Eurasia, which is not that well known in Europe, not as much as you would like, and in Europe, where the business community and the companies are ever more interested in widening up their horizons and cooperate. The cooperation between Italy and Russia dates back to long years ago. There are elements of excellences that have marked the past history, and we've learned about that. And it is very much encouraging framework in a situation that sometimes is a bit of a predicament that seems that there's no will to cooperate. And sometimes the institutions that represent take up a negative attitude. An important development of the Verona Forum is the result of the cooperation with Ross Congress, which is sides with Conoscere Eurasia, to make Eurasia, to establish ties with the St. Petersburg Forum, which is probably one of the most important events, which is organized by the Russian Federation, involving the whole rest of the world. Now, I'd like to raise a question for Mr. Stuglev. How do you see the possibility for these important events to develop further, to become the platform leading to greater understanding, to stronger ties, to overcome the barriers that are at times raised to make work and cooperation more difficult? Good afternoon. I'll try to be brief because I understand this is the end of the forum. And as you observed, and we have to establish a platform for cooperation. Well, this, I believe, is the most important task of our organization. We organize over 100 events on a yearly basis. The St. Petersburg Economic Forum certainly is the most important, and then there's the Sochi Investment meeting, and many others. But the Verona Forum has been held now for 5 consecutive years, the Eurasian Forum, and we greatly support this initiative and have been for the last 3 years, thanks to the commitment and involvement of Professor Fallica. But the forum in itself is growing year on year. This is unquestionable. And as a matter of fact, the most important parties are already involved, both on the side of the European Union and on the side of the Eurasian Union. At the beginning of the forum, a very important sentence was said: we have to develop a dialogue, and we're now in a situation where many of the old problems seem to be solved, but now we have been, in a way, placed backwards because, and thanks to these initiatives, we share more. We can start on old premises, and you see that there are here that we meet delegates from the business community, from the media, and I believe that these institutions are holding a dialogue as if it was never interrupted. So considering that the political channels have been narrowed, well, we have to develop other channels so as to enlarge and widen cooperation and find other options for growth and try to prevent our relationships from becoming less important. I would like to thank again Professor Fallica, all the speakers, all the delegates for attending the meeting. Thank you. Well, as a matter of fact, companies are showing greater interest in cooperation, but I believe that also the institutions are showing some interest. Well, this forum, for example, has heard what Professor Prodi has said and what has been reiterated by Madame Volovaya, i.e. let's establish a conference, let's try and get and talk together to understand one another. So on the one hand, the European institutions have shown little understanding, but there's an opening on the other side. There's an opening to prolonged dialogue. By the way, the Italian Prime Minister, who was invited to this meeting, hasn't come, but he has stressed the uselessness of sanctions. So, in a way, he referred to the fact that sanctions basically discontinue growth without bringing about any benefit for anyone. So reference was made to the need to start a new conference, to open new tables. So this is a well-known and acknowledged forum. And an important agreement was signed here with China that extends, widens up the already existing relationships that had been started a few years ago. Well, 3 years ago, by the way, China was involved for the first time, and now that beginning basically was translated into the actual signing of an agreement. So interest was shown in to the opening up of new discussions. So to what extent do you think the forum can facilitate this dialogue so that institutions can cooperate to side the companies that are already fully cooperating? Over to you, Professor Faulica. Well, first of all, let me thank Alexander Stuglev, which is the CEO of the Ross Congress Foundation, and he's the director of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. I have to say that ever since Ross Congress co-organized our initiatives, and this in particular, well, ever since this started off, well, the forum, the Verona Forum grew importantly, and that proved to be extremely successful. This success is also due to the subject matter of this forum, to the involvement of the business community. Here tonight, after 2 days that have been very intense, the business community, the delegates are probably exhausted. And yet there are some that are still here. And this is a clear sign that there's an interest on their side. We believe that this forum contributes also to the success of the St. Petersburg International Forum, which is going to be held next year between the 1st and the 3rd of June. In 2016, Ross Congress offered us an opportunity to establish within this forum a stand 100% of Italian, something that has never happened in the history of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, when that has been a success that we reached thanks to the contribution of the St. Petersburg Forum and the Ross Congress. That also thanks to the contribution from Ross Congress, we have been given the possibility to meet Chinese partners, Indian partners, and Antonio Cianci has enabled us to enter into this agreement with the International Technology Transfer Network, ITTN. What do we think about China? What do you think about Asia? Well, we believe that the best relationship that we might establish with China in Asia is something that we have to establish through Russia. I, for myself, believe that the relationship between Europe and Asia, Europe and China, has to go through Russia. Not because we of any other reasons, but because Russia plays an important geopolitical role and has this kind of role on the international exchequer. And this is what we reiterate in all the regional initiatives that we hold in Italy. And this year we're organizing similar meetings also in Switzerland. So now, to full suit to the proposal that was raised by President Prodi, as of next year, we intend to organize here a session between members of the Commission of the European Union and members of the Commission of the Eurasian Commission. This is a challenge that we should take upon it ourselves so as to promote dialogue between Europe on the one hand and Eurasia on the other side. Always on condition that between Europe and Eurasia, the main interlocutor should be Russia. Well, the fundamental interlocutor should be the Russian Federation, as I say. Very well, this was a clear message. This was a wish that was expressed. I believe there's nothing to add, but I think we should only work for the next edition of the Forum to be even more successful than this year's edition. That was certainly greatly appreciated. We have to do our best so that the Forum, thanks to cooperation of Rose Congress and thanks to the cooperation of all sponsors and friends and all of those who made this possible, well, we hope that the next year Forum may still contribute to progress and peace as well, something which is greatly topical these days. Thank you very much to you all. Now, let me conclude setting the date for this forum. So the 6th edition of the Eurasian Forum, the 10th edition of the forum that we've been holding in Verona, will take place on October 19th and 20th in 2017. And between June 1st and June 3rd in 2017, the 21st edition of the St. Petersburg's International Economic Forum will take place. And we'd like to invite all SMEs also to that forum. They'll have a conference devoted to them on May 31st. May 31st is the day which is fully devoted to the SMEs at the St. Petersburg Forum. There's a program that you'll be receiving shortly. Thank you very much again. Thank you for bearing with us, and we have to make sure that the dialogue is kept open. Thank you.
Grazie.